Okay, so I'm gonna try to demonstrate the antennas that I'm using, so that if you wanna make them, so you know how to make them. So the first one is the 160 meter, right? So what do you do for that? So you, on the ground, you put your ground radials, then you just grab a piece of wire, then you put a coil, and then that's it. What's the length of this wire? Yeah, it's more or less 10 meters. Let's see if this works. 10 meters. Can it be read? And what's the length of this? Like 15 meters. And this for 160 meters. And the coil, the value of this coil, I don't know, around 70 something microhenries. And you saw the SWR, and which was really good. And the Q is really good. Now, it's a workable antenna. It's not my best option. Now, that same antenna, what I did, I just grabbed, and you'll see it, that I have another coil here with 18 feet telescopic antenna. And this one gave me the 60 meters. So let's put that one on its own. So it's just basically, you know, the ground plane. Then I had a little 52-inch mast. Then I did a coil. This is galvanized wire, and I put so that you can tune it. So I put a little bit of a wire in which you can short the coil. If you want to make it shorter, well, you just shorten it here to tune it to the right frequency. And this one goes 5 meters or so. And this, I don't know, it's all around 20, 50, 100 microhenries. So it depends. So what you want. And this one works perfectly on 60 meters, okay? Now, the other antenna is a dipole. So this one, we're using a ladder line, okay? So you have a ladder line here. Here I'm using the banana plugs, which in my opinion seem to work, you know, just fabulously. And a stranded steel wire, and you run this end and that end, and these tunes to 40 to the 40 meter band, and the length of wire is, you know, 1/4 of that, right? So it's around 10 meters, right? And here I put another coil, yes, around 70 something microhenries or something. And here just put another piece of wire. This one was probably around 2 meters or something. And the total height of the antenna is, yeah, around 10 meters. And then the ladder line, I connected it to a coax, right? And then it goes to my IDF. I'm sorry, to my where I have my switch for the antennas and the grounding rod at home. This antenna works well, and I show you the SWR. Then, my favorite of all antennas, so that's the Moxon. And the Moxon, that's a hard to make antenna. So, because the Moxon basically requires you to put, that's a driven element here, and you have to put a rectangle, and this is the driven element, and this is the reflector, okay? And you basically have to tune it. You use to hold these wires, use a fiberglass rods. These are $50, so very expensive. And then you just cut the wires to the proper lengths, and then you get all the bands that you need. I made mine for 10, all the way from 10 to 20 meters. And so the problem with this antenna is that you need to cut it to perfection, okay? And what I did here is I joined all of this. Here, there's a gap, there's nothing, okay? So I joined all of this, and here I'm feeding them with the coax. So the coax goes here, feeding the antenna. And I put stranded steel wire, this one, and the one joining all of this is also stranded steel wire. And you can see it on the videos on the QRC page under Kilo, on QRC.com, under Kilo Oscar 6 Delta Echo Victor. I have a bunch of videos. Now, the Moxon antenna, awesome. It's an awesome antenna. So I recommend it. This is like a Jaggy, but very light, very difficult to make because you need to cut it and then you need to tune it. And if you're using stranded steel wire, so it's gonna be shorter than copper wire. And all the measurements you have to adjust, which is this length, that length, that length, that length, that length, and the length in between these two. And you have to do that for all the different bands, which takes a lot of patience. But using the stranded steel wire with the, see, here's the wire, and it comes with this sort of like, so you insert the wire here, and then you flip it here, and that's the way you tie it. And you can peel it here, and then you get the stranded steel, and if you want to make it longer, or you just put the like this concoction would go here, right? And you just put a piece of either fishing line or whatever you want, and it's easy to modify this length, right? Which is this length, and so it's with the stranded steel wire, it's still a pain, but it's not bad, right? Now, what about the rotor? Because you need the fiberglass, which are like $50 each. That's an expensive part of the antenna. So you need a rotor. You need a way to rotate this. So what I came up with was very simple. So I had, the 1/4 of an inch RCA pipe, right? So inside the 1/4 of an inch RCA pipe, I put a 1-inch pipe. And you slide this down. But so that it doesn't go all the way down, so you have to put a stopper. So I found this very, that you use for, you can find it on Amazon. It's basically these things that stops it from traveling down, and you attach it with a screw over here or a screw over there, and that way the 1-inch will not slide inside the 1 1/4 inch. Now you need to put the motor. So for the motor, I bought this $10 5 RPM little motor, and then So you put the motor here. Well, it's a little bit bigger. So you put the motor here. And here, this is, by the way, a 12 volt. It works on 9 volts, 9 volts DC. And you just have a controller, which is a $10 controller. Okay, so here, this is just the axle. So on the axle, you're gonna buy these little gears, and these are the gears that you use for 3D printers, and then the belt, you're gonna wrap it around here, right? You're gonna wrap the belt around this section, right? And it's gonna be here. And so what you do is you insert the belt that you're going to use here for the 3D printer, you put it here on the inside. And you flip it. And so the belt works as your gears, as part of the gear system. And of course, you tighten this up by means of putting a lever here so that it forces the engine to do that, which is just a fantastic, cheapo solution to do this. So here's your belt, and you just buy the right length so that so the belt is very tight together with this. So I'm gonna, so imagine this is the other belt. So the other belt comes here, okay? Tightened already. This is the tightened belt. And it's rubbing against the 3D printer belt. And I put actually 3 of those, so that way if there's movement, still is gonna hold. And that's the way you rotate the antenna. These ones, I put those things to, for hoses, right? For the hose, and you just tighten it up, and that sort of like takes care of that. And that's the belt, that's a rotor. And the solution is like what? I don't know, $15 and $10 for the controller. And the controller is basically a very simple box. I don't know if I can show it to you here. It's too far away. Is it too far away? Yeah, well, here's the controller. And that's what it basically is, right? So you control the antenna. Here you increase or decrease the voltage, so it rotates faster or slower, and it comes with a switch. This is another one. This is a switch for the antennas. And this is another controller, just like that I'm using for the other antenna, which is the MagLoop. So, but that's another story. Okay, so I hope you can understand all of these weird drawings, right? So I do strongly recommend the Moxon if you're serious about DXing, yeah. And you can buy all of these, this is the stopper so that the 1-inch tube doesn't slide all the way inside the RCA. This is the typical RCA 1/4 of an inch tube. And this is a good solution for a belt driven rotor, and it's very cheap. And so the controller, $10, and the 5 RPM little motor, which is like that size, is just cheap, very cheap, and it works. And remember, the Moxon antenna is very light, so it's not a heavy antenna. It's a very light antenna, so you don't have to struggle. There's no problem with the weight, because the whole thing probably is, I don't know, 2-3 pounds or something. It's not heavy. It's a very light antenna. And I think that concludes the presentation. And the other antenna, which I just barely show, is the GP80 or the Moonraker, they call it. And it's just like a 7-meter thing with a, I believe it may be a 9-to-1 on or something of the sort. And basically the SWR is very low on all the frequencies, and it covers from what they claim that from 80 meters, but yeah, you can do from all the way from 40 to 6. But I don't really like it compared to the Moxon and compared to dipole and even compared to the vertical with the coil. This antenna mounted up there as a ground plane, it works much better than if you mount it up. So this, the GP80, yeah, it's pretty good, but in my opinion, right? And this is my radio. So I recommend this radio. This is a fantastic radio, very inexpensive for what it does. So it does everything, and it's a really good radio. I recommend this radio. Really good. And this is Kilo Oscar 6 Delta Echo Picture 73.